Are you one of those weak-minded pussies who's just waiting for somebody else to tell you what to think? Well, get on out of here. You don't want nothing to do with my teachings. Wait, no. You're exactly who I need to talk to. Come on.
LN to EOW. Together, we're discovering our common work, our common stories, and our common love.
Seriously, though, are you scrolling through just looking for pieces of information and memes to confirm your bias? Because if that's what you're looking for, then that is weak-minded, right? We tend to gravitate towards certainty. Certainty makes us feel right about ourselves. But what can we be certain about, seeing that our minds have been programmed by a corporate, centralized power, centralized authority system?
Oh, sweet old guy. Check him out. How you doing, man? What is that? It's a very old Tai Chi robe that a student from China gave me. Because he was getting really sick and not going to make it. And he said you'd appreciate it more than anybody else. So I did. And I wear it to class. Oh, you got a new friend, little guy. The jeans are delicious. I'm gonna eat them when you go back to sleep.
You know what to do.
And I'll put it together with your expert cinematography.
What can we know, and how do we come to know it? And from where does true authority arise? How long did it take you to know exactly who I was and exactly what it was that I had to say and exactly how you had no use for it? Well, maybe if you're still watching, you still haven't decided yet. And strangely enough, that's where the truth resides. And the truth is hidden in that field out there beyond right and wrong, of which Rumi and Jesus both spoke of. That place in between knowing and not knowing. And if we can hold that place, well, that's where we discover something really deep in ourselves that we might call the truth.
Hola, perro. Hello. Let me get licks for my face.
What is it like to be a free thinker in a world where our thoughts have been programmed into us by the king who lives up there on the mountain? He'll be appeased by nothing less than our souls. Limbo Cafe, I remember that.
It was a great band. It was a fantastic band.
An Oklahoma
Their
City
album was
band,
great.
yeah?
Well, Norman, yeah.
Norman.
And man, they inspired me a lot.
Limbo Cafe?
Yeah, they did an album, I think they did it at Studio 7. And man, the mix was just amazing on it.
Ever since the 1960s, we Americans have been developing our pluralism, this idea that truth is relative somehow. Although the methods by which we may explore and experience the truth may seem infinite to our fragile minds, the truth is absolute. There is depth. Truth is nested, and although our truth or our perception of the truth may feel threatened by a deeper truth, nested truth is that which compassionately holds all the truths that came before it. And that's what it's like to come to the end of pluralism.
I'm glad we're here together. Thank you.
It's a great moment. Thank you.
I was watching MTV.
Oh my God, this is so cool.
I never really learned that song right.
Labor, the expression of worth. LN to EOW. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil may come to represent to us that journey that we've been on of realization, the realization that we crucify love when it appears to us because we're so into being right and wrong.
Can't afford no shoes, Frank Zappa, one size fits all.
How did it go?
Have you heard the news? Can't afford no shoes. Whoa, whoa, hey, Lordy Mama, have you heard the news?
If you are one of those who believes that you have no use for religion, if you believe that you have somehow transcended yourself as a storyteller or the need for story, then you might want to check and see where that story that you're telling yourself originated.
Fiddle player.
Limbo Cafe, I remember that.
It was a great band. It was a fantastic band.
An Oklahoma
Their
City
album was
band,
great.
yeah?
Well, Norman, yeah.
Norman.
And man, they were just they inspired me a lot.
Limbo Cafe?
Yeah, they were just they did an album. I think they did it at Studio 7. And man, I mean, the mix was just amazing on it.
This is Travis. Stingy up to for Travis.
Somebody asked me the other day, they said, Trav, wow, I'm watching this crazy stream of videos. What have you learned from this process? It looks like you've just gone through such a transformation. Did they really ask you that, Trav? Or no one really asked me that. That's just, it's a writing prompt I'm using that I gave myself. Someday, though, somebody's going to ask me that question. The question will be, hey, Trav, what have you learned from this whole process? As you've made all these 1,300 videos on YouTube. Well, number one, I am in love with the production process. I never know what the next video is going to look like, and most of the time I have no idea what it's going to be about. But I discover and rediscover a nuanced and dignified self-respect each time a new creation comes forth. I'm in love with how my inner producer works with my inner writer, and how both of those roles played by me will have talks with the singer-songwriter. And then there's this brand and culture marketer who works with all of those other roles. And I love Travelin' Trav. He's my ideal self, the essential persona, both fierce and compassionate. And at the heart of all those fragmented characters is the I am, that great presence which will never leave or forsake us, who loves to encourage us in our Rumi and Hafiz-inspired romance with Grace, our beloved. Isn't that something? At many waypoints along the video production path, I've doubted the validity of my endeavor, even asking God to shut down my work if it is only causing harm. I've no interest in being a clanging gong, and I pray that my teachings are loving enough that they cause no harm. And I think this is one reason that I've been trying to bring more humor into my writings these days. That's one of my production personas that I didn't mention earlier, the writer, the essayist, Jude the obscure, the one who believes in the books as a part of our salvation, the lover of the word, the rhetorician who employs the self-satirical cartoon characters with all the ridiculous voices. Yes, these videos, the production of them is like a sandbox, and yes, sometimes the kitty takes a shit in your sandbox. I can also speak about the self-inventory, the fearless moral inventory that the process subjects me to. I make myself incredibly vulnerable to my viewer in many of my creations, and sometimes when I rewatch my videos later, I cringe and move on to something else. So yeah, I can understand those of you who think I'm a little bit gross and creepy. Sometimes now, I'm in full acceptance of that entire process. It's a graceful journey. It has to be. And I simply must love the process, because the likes and shares can be few and far between. I have become significantly tougher as time and again I release the next iteration of my production, which I believe to be my very best, the most graceful, the most compassionate, the most musical, and then, inevitably, hardly anyone can give my work the attention that I know it deserves. Yes, I've had to become a lot tougher. It's a work in progress, y'all, but I believe in it, and I love my audience. I love you. I've decided to love my audience even as my supportive audience still seems to be much smaller than my small mind would prefer. I'm in love with the discipline of it all. I'm in love with my video making as an integrated spiritual practice, Written into my business plan is my love of turning my camera on us, you and I, together. If there is something you love doing, please consider allowing me to document your process. I'd love to hear about how you are aligning your greatest efforts with what you know in your heart to have the greatest value. My agenda is the well-being of us all. I'm an encourager who has transcended to a large degree his people-pleasing tendencies. And that is a great segue into another aspect of my content production. I wanted to mention it as I started writing. If you've been following my work recently, then you're aware of how I've been repenting of my own naive liberalism, which I describe as a natural knee-jerk reaction to an ignorant religious conservatism. And this is how I've been describing my own personal progression through the confusing ideological landscape of these days. I've been repenting of my own self-righteous pluralism and my weak codependent behavior, and I've documented that journey over the last years. I can now see a transformation in personhood and approach, and I truly believe that it was this transformation which was necessary if Trav was to move forward into his next iteration of persona, a persona who is hopefully more funny and more surrendered. Yeah, I caught that progression on film. Check it out. There's 1,300 videos. And here's something about that transformation which I consider to be just delightful. It happened in the editing room. I recorded myself and then began a spirit-led editing process in which I could see those bits that just weren't working. It's been rough sometimes, but I can see now an authentic inner work that God is doing as I, day by day, video after video, surrender my process to the Holy Spirit. For real. I'm serious about that. The arts are a realm where there is a tradition of self-compromise, you might say. Or maybe it's the self-compromised who gravitate toward the arts for their cathartic value. Every video that you see in my archives represents some level of willingness that was gifted to an annihilated man by a graceful, loving God, a God who is not separate from that man. Travelin' Trav, this particular manifestation of consciousness that I call I. Just who did I think I was?